Hi there, this is Jeanette for Whimsy Stamps. Today's video is a card making video. I will be using this new image from Whimsy. It is called Elephant with Bouquet, and I'll be coloring it up with some Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. To start off, I have a piece of Canson watercolor paper. I'm just using my anti-static tool on the surface, and then I'm inking it up with Archival Jet Black ink. And then I am going to take some clear embossing powder and sprinkle that over top and use my heat tool to emboss it. Now, I had already done this step and used some Molotow blue masking fluid to mask the elephant, and then I added my background. But when I went to take off the Molotow, it actually stuck to the inside of the elephant. I couldn't get it out of the grain of the water paper, so I ended up having to start over again. So that's what you're seeing me do. And I'm using some Eclipse masking paper, and I'm stamping the elephant onto it with Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and that is how I'm going to create my mask instead. So I'm just going to adhere that down. I cut out all the tiny little pieces, the leaves and the flowers, and then I had to sort of get those adhered down. I find with the little pieces they don't stick down nearly as firmly. You really have to sort of fiddle with them and press down on them to make them stick. I created a mask for my sky and for my ground. I took the pierced border trio dies, and then I cut some Eclipse masking paper. I'm using 1/2 of it here now to mask the sky while I color in the grass. Then I'll just peel that off. And when I did that, I peeled off the masks for my flowers, so I had to put them on again. Just press those down, and then I used the other piece of the masking paper, masked off the grass, and now I can go in and do the sky. So I'm going to use Hero Art's Soft Pool ink, and I am going to sort of concentrate that color around the elephant. So I want the blue to be deepest around the elephant, and then to fade off gradually, so that as you go towards the edges of the card, it will remain white. So I did that with a very light hand and was careful not to have too much ink on my blending tool so that I could achieve that look. So once that was done, I was able to peel off all my masks, and we're going to start watercoloring. So I have a little piece of watercolor paper here on the side, and I'm using that to sort of test out my color combinations before I go onto my image. What I'm doing is I'm taking this darker gray color and I'm adding that where I want all my shadows, just a thin line, and then I'm taking a lighter gray marker and I am blending out that color. So you can see I'm sort of working in a circular motion here, blending it out. I'm going to add a little bit more here by the cheek area. And then I'm going to take a little paintbrush here that's been dipped in water and dried, and then I will use that to complete the blend. So I find for me, this is the way I can achieve a blended and shaded look to my coloring. It's important that you have a sort of paintbrush that's not too wet, so I have a little paper towel there, and I make sure that I dry off the paintbrush before I go onto my image. So I'm coloring in little sections and allowing the sections to dry before I go and color an area right beside it. So I'm moving down here and doing the leg using the exact same technique. And if you find that you have like a harsh line or a water line, you can definitely go in with your paintbrush again and just smooth that out. So I'm moving to another area. Again, it's not touching the areas that I've already worked on, so I'm allowing those areas to dry. Getting that blended out. Here I had a little bit of the gray that sort of seeped over that embossed edge, so I'm just taking a damp paintbrush and sort of going over it with the paintbrush, and then it usually disappears. That's another reason why I didn't use distress inks when I created the blended background. I didn't want the distress inks to react with the water if I had to sort of clean up an edge. So by using the Hero Arts ink here, I am able to clean up any mistakes and I don't have to worry about sort of ruining my background. So I'm just continuing the coloring here. Got this sort of final leg here to do. I bought these markers, I would say, at the end of last year, late November, early December, I would say. And I bought a set of 24. They were on special and it was a splurge, but I didn't feel so bad about buying a set of 24. I wouldn't have bought like a larger set because I wasn't sure how I was going to like them. But I'm really enjoying them now, and what I've done is I've sort of added to my collection. I've looked at the markers that are in my set, and if I have like a red marker and I want a lighter red color, then I will buy the lighter shade. So I'm just sort of building up my marker collection that way. Here you see I'm doing the ears, using the sort of same way. So whereas with my Copic markers I always start with my lighter color, with the Zig markers I'm starting with the darker and then blending with the lighter. To create the cheek, I took my mounting block and then I just sort of put a little bit of the color onto the mounting block and then picked it up with my paintbrush. And that way I was able to get a very, very light and very soft cheek color. Still working on that area where I got a little bit of bleeding. I'm going to move on now to the flowers using Carmine and Light Carmine. These colors are so pretty. I think they're two of my favorite colors from the markers that I own. I think with the Zig markers you get such a vibrancy, which I really enjoy. So I encourage you, if you want to try out the Zig markers. You don't even have to buy a set like I did. I mean, I bought the small set. I think there might be a set that's smaller than 24. Maybe there's a set of 12. But definitely encourage you to get one or two sort of complementary colors and start playing with them. And if you like them, then you can build your marker set. Just finishing this flower. The tips are quite fine, so it's quite easy to get into the tiny little areas and color them. I'm going to do the stems now of the flowers, and then with this lighter green I'm actually going to go over a little bit of the sort of grass where the elephant is standing, adding a tiny bit of yellow to the centers of the flowers there. I'm not going to blend that out. And then I'm going to work on the butterfly. I decided to make the butterfly blue and purple. And again, these colors are so rich and so vibrant. They're so fun. That was my dark shade. I'm going to blend with that lighter shade. And then with my paintbrush, just blend it out a tiny, tiny little bit. Make sure that you wipe that paintbrush before you go on to your work so that you don't add like a big splash of water. I find a little bit of my butterfly is this blue. I'm going to clean up that area one last time. I added a sentiment from the Up, Up and Away Clear Edition set, and I stamped that with the archival ink and I'm embossing it. I find on watercolor paper to emboss your image like this really makes it stand out a lot better. So I really like how it sort of pops off the page. I'm going to take my white gel pen now and just add a few highlights on the elephant, on his cheeks, on the butterfly, on the flowers, and then I decided to add a few on his tummy and on his ear. To create my card base, I used a piece of craft paper. I cut it to size 4 1/4 by 11, and then I scored it at 5 1/2 and folded it. I decided to add a few gold sequins to my card just for a little bit of bling, not too many. And I am going to adhere them with the Zig glue pen and my quick stick tool to pick up the sequins. I find this is the fastest way and the least tedious way to do this. The only thing I did in addition that I didn't film was I added a little bit of shadow to the card underneath the elephant with a light gray Zig pen. And my card is completed. Thank you very much for watching. A full list of supplies and links can be found below this video on YouTube or on my blog.